Hey, hi, Kelsey. How are you doing today?
Fantastic.
Awesome. So we have a few questions from the area of expertise and experience that you are having. So let's start the rapid fire kind of stuff.
Okay.
So what does platform engineering mean to you?
It means marketing. So outside of the words, there's actually work that you get done. You can call it system administration. You can call it DevOps. You can call it platform engineering. But there's work to be done. Whatever the platform you have, if it's Linux, all the things you add to make Linux useful. If it's Kubernetes, all the things you add to make Kubernetes useful. And even if you're using something serverless, you still probably got to add something to make it useful. So whatever the something you add, that's platform engineering.
I'm so glad that somebody's saying it. So let's take a step back and say that what is a technology-driven platform for you?
A technology-driven platform.
Because that's what we are dealing with.
I mean, look, I've been involved in the Kubernetes community for many years. And when I saw Kubernetes, it was a technology-driven platform, meaning all the things we used to do, Kubernetes gave us a way to serialize it into a piece of technology. So if you pick nodes to run on based on the memory size, instead of doing it on a spreadsheet or in a YAML file for Ansible, you can finally just let the scheduler do it for you. And if something was missing, like, I don't know, some security profile and checks before things actually run, you can just use Kubernetes and mission controllers to make it happen. So in my career, I think Kubernetes was probably one of the first technology driven because of all this extensions, its APIs, its plugin, to finally give us a thing that no matter what ideas we had, whether we're using containers or building something like Istio for networking, we had a technology platform in which to push everything down towards.
So that's an interesting view, and we standing here in cloud native, that's the one good example. But does that mean every abstraction is a platform?
No, this is what I'm saying, that I think for me, platform is just, this platform engineering is a marketing term, because what do the words actually mean? I define this by the work we do, right? So when do platform engineers show up? Is when the thing that we buy needs to have something added to it before it works. For example, Salesforce is a platform, and most people just use it without adding anything. For that case, you are not a platform engineer. You're just using Salesforce as it is. When I use Gmail, I don't do any engineering to Gmail. Therefore, I just use that platform as it is. If I were to extend Gmail, or I go and extend Salesforce, a lot of those people that do full-time consultancy around Salesforce, I would consider them platform engineering. They're engineering on top of this platform called Salesforce. So to me, I define this whole space based on the work we do. And the thing underneath, that's the technical implementation of various platforms, right? So we're in the software business. When we build things that are repeatable and reusable, our tools in many ways become platforms because of the ability to extend them and build on top.
What are the tools you think has evolved and where the industry is kind of heading to in building IDPs, or is it something still a marketing thing and people are just enabling the tools that for easing out the things that they were doing before?
So look, again, another marketing term. We see this in the real world. There's things called public transportation. It's literally just transportation. But what makes it public transportation is how it's funded, who is it meant to be used for, and there's a lot of ideas around it, including all the politics involved. So we use very specific terms to describe that mode of transportation. Public transportation is very different than ride sharing, which is its own segment of transportation. In all of those situations, there's some vehicle picking people up and taking them somewhere. So when we say IDP, we're describing things that have already existed, but with a new set of vocabulary. Internal developer platform. Now we want to start thinking about the things that we give developers, their exact tooling. For some people, the first IDP they've ever interacted with was called Jira, right? There's this thing where you can track issues, you can use Confluence to find documentation, you can click on another button to start chatting in real time. For many people, that was their internal developer platform for deciding on what the work is and tracking it amongst each other. And then there's some people that believe that internal developer platform should be somewhere where you discover other things from each other. Hey, is there an API that does something so I don't have to write it again? And so some people used to put that in Confluence as a doc. Some people don't read the doc. And now we're moving into something that's a bit more interactive. And we give it names like Backstage, just like we gave distributed systems a name called Kubernetes. It's just a label. And so will it pick up and continue? Yes, it was already here. We just gave it a name so that we can all talk about it in the same way. So yes, it's a marketing term to describe something that more of us should be doing or a pattern of doing something. So yeah, I think it's going to be a thing that will survive, but I'm hoping we get past the marketing and more of the work.
Yeah. So, what, according to you, is one of the existing biggest challenges in the whole platform engineering space that we should focus on?
Finishing what you start. Very simple. There's a million people that have OpenShift POC, they have Kubernetes POC, they have Lambda POC. Everything is halfway. No metrics, no logging. We've known to do metrics and logging for 20 years. Most people still don't have CI/CD pipeline. They start it, but never finish. So the hardest thing is to say, hey, I see something that we want to do. The starting point is some POC, a little trial, a little experimentation. The finishing is when it get hard, right? You run into a few errors. You run into things that it doesn't do. Now you need to do some platform engineering to make it work. The vendor told you that it was ready to go, production ready. They show you all the logos. Everybody is using. All you have to do is add your name. And then you get it and you find out it doesn't do everything. Now you have to do some work. That is the hardest part because there are so many success stories. But when you really break down the success stories, it's because they actually finished the work. They didn't buy the perfect product. They made that thing work for themselves. So to me, that is the number one thing. Finish what you start. And if you can't do that, then go get some help.
Awesome.
I just bring the business context in it because even I am of the same opinion that it has to be a whole thing as a whole which works for business. Because in this whole picture somewhere I feel that we lose the context of business and the hybrid estate we are in. The reality is hybrid, right? So I may ask you that putting it into business context, what is that we need to do? Like just not completing it, but doing it for them. What will be those aspects?
You know what? I normally agree that there's this business thing. But to be honest, the business has a responsibility too. Their responsibility is to understand what it takes to build a business. If you're in the housing business, you need to understand real estate, picking properties, and how to sell a house. If you're selling a house for $100,000, do not ask for marble floors. You cannot sell a house with marble floors on every floor for $100,000. The material alone costs more than that. So I think a lot of businesses don't understand what they're building either. They're just hoping. You have business show up, we're going to do DevOps. Do you know how much that costs? You cannot afford DevOps. You want to do Kubernetes as a business? You cannot afford that.
Scale and
Public
cost.
transit cannot afford to drive everyone around in Ferraris. You need a bus. There will not be leather seats and no Wi-Fi because you cannot afford that. So I think when it comes to this is the business has to do a better job of presenting the opportunities. We're in a business segment where this is the maximum pricing that we can do. Once we have that information, I think as an engineer, we're used to working into around constraints. Okay, we can only sell this product for $5. Then we need to be very smart about the tools that we use to make sure that there's enough margin to support this platform. So then once we do that, I think as engineers, we have to be clear to say, look, some of the things you're asking for, you cannot use to meet that. So that's the way I would do it. Ask for clarity. So if you're an engineer and you don't have that clarity, ask for that clarity and then define the constraints and be way more transparent with the business of what they can and cannot have.
Anything last thing you want to share with us or want to convey our people out there?
Finish what you start.
Good one.
Start is
Finish what you start, and maybe do the thing holistically. Thank you so much, Kelsey.
Awesome.
Nice talking to you.